If you're someone who's passionate about transforming education, which you are if you're listening to this podcast, you should check out the Charles Koch Foundation. The Charles Koch Foundation supports social entrepreneurs and organizations that are embracing innovation to build better solutions for today's learners. Visit ckf.org to learn more. Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. Dr. Joe Salustio here with you again and again and again and again and again. And I know I always say that, but then as we approach 400 episodes, I really mean it. We have guests scheduled out almost now to the end of 2022. So I guess I really mean it, that it's going to keep going. Elvin and I are wondering how many episodes we'll do before we actually slow down a little bit. And we're like, hey, should we just put out 3 a week? And then what happens is we have more guests and they say, hey, do you want to have so-and-so? Can you have so-and-so? And I'm like, oh, totally. We got to get that person. We got to get that person. Then it's 4 a week. And then we put up to almost 6 episodes a week. Who has time for that? I don't know. I don't know how I have time to do it. But if you don't have time for it, you can do 2 things. You know, I always say this. Number one, go to our website, edupexperience.com, and you click episodes, and it literally categorizes the episodes. You can listen to folks from private universities, from public universities, from for-profit colleges, from I don't know, small colleges and big colleges and online colleges and on-ground colleges and, you know, people from enrollment or ed tech CEOs and entrepreneurs. We categorize for your viewing pleasure, not for ours, because we're here for everyone, but for yours. So you have somewhere to go to find the content that is most relevant to you. And more importantly, or as equally important, you know we're writing a book. Go to commencementthebook.com. The name of the book is Commencement, the Beginning of a New Era in Higher Education. How could we possibly know what to put in that book? Well, we've yes, we've done that, but we've interviewed 140 college and university presidents and people in and around higher ed. We're going to take all those themes and distill them down to a book. So you can kind of get the sense of 400 episodes if you don't have time to listen to 400. Getting a lot of traction behind this book. Hopefully pre-orders will come out soon. We're targeting this summer. Well, who wouldn't want to read a book that has all of the thoughts of all the people that we've interviewed? You'd think that'd be a good book. No pressure on us, of course. I would never put pressure on us. But we're going to make a darn good book for you guys to read. Speaking of darn good, I got a darn good guest with me today. He has been in the business a long time. He runs a very unique college that we're going to talk about. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to bring him in right now. I got to make sure he's ready, and I got to make sure I introduce him the right way. Ladies and gentlemen, his name is Jim Mathis, and he's president of Wyotech. Jim, what's happening?
Hey, Joe. It's great to be online with you here. So looking forward to our discussion.
Me too. And, you know, it's great to have you here. I, in fact, have heard your name before many times working in the circles that I've worked in before. So I was very excited to talk with you today. Talk about Wyotech. Level set for us. What is Wyotech? What do you guys do? How do you do it?
Yeah, Wyotech is located in Laramie, Wyoming. And we are, in a nutshell, we train automotive and diesel mechanics for the industry. But we're much more than that as well, because we have some specialty programs. We have, in our specialty programs, we have chassis fabrication, where it's welding and fabrication. We have rebuilding high performance engines. We have trim and upholstery, where we upholster cars. And a lot of those students will actually end up in the aviation industry after they graduate. And then we have street rod building, and we have advanced diesel. We have business management, where they actually can receive an associate degree in one of the core programs and business management. So we're very, again, unique. We're family owned. We're in Laramie, Wyoming. We have short programs. Our program's only 9 months, but students most of the time receive more credit hours and clock hours in 9 months than they do at a junior college in 2 years, because we go to school 8 hours and 20 minutes a day, 5 days a week. So that's Wyotech kind of in a nutshell.
So first of all, there's one of the most unique and most valuable parts of what Wyotech does right now is you're teaching. Well, let me rephrase that. One of the arguments around higher education, and you have probably heard this as well as I have, is value. What is the value of higher education? You know, you've got students all over the country saying, I never used my degree. The public saying you could do this way. You see technology companies now coming out with alternatives like Google, Grow with Google, and so on and so on. I live in California. I laugh because what broke? Something broke in my house. I rent out here and something broke, and we needed somebody to come fix a dishwasher. It was like 3 weeks to get a person out to fix a dishwasher. And you go, no one is doing those jobs anymore. The jobs that the I don't know, manual labor, but the work with your hands jobs, the technical jobs, and they were kind of going away. And all of a sudden, things kind of swung back to, you know, you get something that's going to give you the skills to make money and do it as fast as possible, and then maybe figure out what your higher ed future might look like. Can you talk about the variability in demand? How has the demand gone up or down, and how has coronavirus affected you all, you know, kind of overall?
Yeah, great question. The trades have always been in demand, but I've never seen it as good or great as it is right now. So we have employers literally coming from all 50 states to recruit our students. Our students can leave with 10 job offers or more. Instead of going through like a regular college and not knowing exactly what direction you're going to go, our students are kind of specific and people are after them. So, and our wages, starting wage for a student is anywhere from, you know, $15 an hour that we hear from, all the way up to UPS was here 2 months ago offering our students $39 an hour starting wage. Wow. So, so the offers are amazing. And if a student wants to work in the trades, especially in the automotive and diesel industry, the jobs are there.
You know, it's pretty insane when you think about that the talent pipeline. Amazing that Wyotech is able to prepare the graduates, but insane that people are coming from all over the country to capture your graduates. And you think about the lack of the talent pipeline. Where are, you know, the companies, it's a real battle for talent. We had a guest host with me. Her name's Lisa Honecker. She's a vice president of sales, or managing director of sales for FedEx office for the East Coast. And she said the same thing, that there's a real battle for talent. Yes. We can't find good people. And so these companies are coming from all over the country for your grads, which give your grads leverage, right? It's a supply and demand issue. So do your grads come out going, oh, wow, I can wait, I can leverage, I can hedge my bet, and they're going to end up with a job almost every single time?
Absolutely. They'll play one employer against another employer and get several different job offers and then say, listen, you know, FedEx offered me this, UPS offered me this. What are you going to offer me? Everything from tuition reimbursement to tool reimbursement, moving expenses, sign-on bonuses. We hear it all nowadays. And so Wyotech is unique too, that we recruit nationally. So we have students from all 50 states. And then we also place students back, normally within 100 or 200 miles of their hometown, kind of where they want to go. But we do have employers coming from literally all over the United States to recruit our students. And our students are a little bit different caliber. I think we probably have the strictest professionalism code. So that's why the employers love our students. Our students go to school 8 hours and 20 minutes a day. They have to have a uniform shirt. They have to be clean shaven, no earrings, nose rings, tongue rings. If they miss 3 days in a 6-week period, we suspend them. And so employers, they love our student conduct code and professionalism code because we're teaching real world technicians to get into the industry the right way. So
there's always kind of been a knock on, you know, we talk about community college with community college presidents a lot about, you know, the stigma that was placed on community colleges, where if you didn't get into a 4-year university, you'd go to community college or to the trades or a vocational school, and you didn't make it. Like you just weren't good enough to go to a 4-year university. That's not really the way it is anymore. There's still people that think that way, but I would say that that's a little naive. You're talking about people that are looking at an ROI They're looking at value. They're looking at this from a financial perspective. These aren't people that didn't make it in a 4-year. These are the people that went, you know what? I don't want to spend 4 years in a college or university. I need to put food on the table for my family. I want to have a fallback. Maybe I do want to go to college, but I want to be able to fix a car if I need to fix a car, or drive a truck if I need to drive a truck. So these are people making very specific, detailed financial decisions for their family, right? Or are you having these at-risk students that can't make it anymore, Jim?
Yeah, I tell people that if they think that way, that it's for the more challenged people, or to take their car to those type of people, because they got more computers and gadgets on those cars and semis and everything else. So there's no way, the technicians of today can get by with lack of knowledge and lack of training. And I say it's a choice. I chose Wyotech. I went to school here in 1976, and it was a choice. It wasn't because I didn't feel like I couldn't make it through college. It was a choice. No, I didn't want to spend 4 years in college. I wanted to get out in the work world. And so I chose Wyotech to get in and get out and get a job. And that led me right back to Wyotech as a teacher. I started teaching as a 19-year-old kid here, and went from teacher, student, then teacher, then all the way up to be president, and currently owner of Wyotech. So this definitely paid off. So
I should say so. You make a really good point about technology, and that's an important part of this. I took my car in. I got a new gig, so I'm moving from California to Lindenwood University, which is in St. Louis, and I drove my car across country. But we took it in to get it looked at before I drove it, and they gave me like a pictures of everything, all these picture printouts of the car, and what was good, so that you couldn't come back to them and go, hey, my tire's out of alignment. Like they took the picture to say, I didn't screw up your tire. And all the pictures on the inside, this needs to be fixed, or that needs to be fixed, and here's what's leaking, or whatever. Not that my car was in that bad a shape, and don't take it the wrong way, but you get the point. This isn't just to reach my hands in and fix a car anymore. This is a job that includes, and jobs, all the programs that you offer, a huge technology angle. It is much harder than it used to be. So you have to be technology inclined and be able to be good with your hands. This is a new evolving space for people in the trades, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The technology now is just unbelievable with all the sensors and, hands-off driving and the whole bit, parking, all those sensors. Someone has to get them to all coordinate with the computer and work properly, or you've got some huge liability. So yeah, it's more of a almost a computer gig than, getting your hands dirty anymore. So
it's crazy how it's evolved. Pretty soon the cars are going to be flying, or you're going to be fixing flying parts here.
Absolutely.
And maybe you could tell me when that's going to happen, because nobody else seems to know the answer, Jim. Maybe you know when the cars are
Well, John Deere just came out with their 8R tractors that are autonomous. So you can run them from your office, in the house or your bedroom or whatever. So
nice.
Yeah. So that's how close we are to this. So
talk to me about some of the challenges of running a school teaching the trades these days, and whether those challenges are internal or external, and talk about those difficulties in soapbox it for a minute, Jim, because I have an idea of what those are, but I want to give you a chance to talk about some of those internal and external headwinds, as it were.
Sure. A lot of them are, self fulfilling problems. You think of things and you build monsters in your head or whatever, but we've been very fortunate. We bought Wyotech 3.5 years ago. We started with 12 students and 12 employees, and currently we have 650 students and 150 employees, and should have over 800 students by this fall.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and as an owner, as leaders of the company, and I have an awesome team, Ashley's one of them. But as leaders of the company, we get paid to solve problems and work through the things. And I don't care if you're talking 10 years ago or 30 years ago, whatever, there always seems to be problems. And, you can either get bogged down in those, or you can say, hey, we're going to fix it and move on. We're not going to let our problems define us. We're going to let our mission, vision, values define us, and we're going to work through those problems so we keep going. And so, I don't get hung up in coming in and saying, oh, something's wrong or the government's bad or whatever. We figure out a way to work through these situations, and so we can stay focused on training students and getting them great jobs. That's our number one focus. And so is it challenging some days? Absolutely. This crazy mandate and vaccine mandate and everything else, that I had some sleepless nights, but it's just like, God's taken care of us so far, and I put my trust in him again, or continue to. And long story short, the Supreme Court overruled it, so we don't have to, force students and employees to get vaccinated or tested. So, and again, that's just one sample. You just work through them. So,
well, I like that answer, right? Because it's easy to go, hey, it's this entity's fault, or hey, the government's putting pressure on schools, or hey, we don't have the resources that other schools do, and you can get hung up on those things, right?
That's exactly right.
Weights on your it's like a chip on your shoulder kind of thing.
Yep. And we just refuse to. We just say, hey, we're going to have those no matter what era of time, and it's as leaders of the company, we have to work through them, but stay focused on our growth. So
I love that. So where do you take Wyotech from here, right? So you talked about growth. Are you just growing so rapidly? So one of the, I guess, intended consequences of growth is capacity, right? Sometimes you're growing faster than you have people, or you have systems, and you go, what do we have to do? And so capacity becomes a real issue. Do we add a program? Should we not add a program? Is it mission aligned? Is it not? So
Yep.
Capacity is something that you'll deal with, obviously, as a president, as a leader of an institution. Talk about capacity in a growing situation and how you balance decision-making, because it gets exciting, doesn't it?
It's very exciting.
Oh gosh, we're growing. We can add this, we could do that. And then you start to forget, wait a minute, who's going to do that?
Yep. We call it dreaming and scheming. So we're continually pulling the team together and dream and scheme. What does this thing look like 2 years down the road, and 5 years and 10 years? And so when we bought Wyotech, we bought it with 225,000 square feet under roof, excluding our housing. We have student housing for our students as well. And currently, this past year, 2021, we built a 5,000 or just under 5,000 square foot addition on for additional classrooms, because we needed them and we're growing so fast. And then that same year, the fall of 2021, we started doing dirt work and foundation work, and we're building 90,000 square foot building to add on. So we'll have over 325,000 square feet under roof before long. When I left,
amazing.
Yeah, when I left in 2002, we had almost 2,200 students in Laramie. We'd started our Pennsylvania campus that grew up to 1,500 students. And so when I came back 3.5 years ago and started with 12 students, it was a shock through the system. But we also know that we've been there and done that, and it's just a matter of time and additional facilities. We bought an additional 70 acres across the street from us, and we're doing a master plan as we speak for that 70 acres, so we can get up to around 3,500 students. And then we're negotiating on more land across a different street, so we can get up to 7, 8, 9,000 students over the next 10 years. So we have big goals, big plans, and we take one day at a time and work through them, and so far so good.
The purpose of education is to help learners discover their aptitudes and interests, develop their skills, and then deploy that knowledge to benefit themselves and others. The Charles Koch Foundation, a nonprofit grant-making organization, works with leaders in education to remove barriers that stand in the way of all learners reaching their potential. They support individualized and flexible models that improve access and quality for millions of Americans. They also support apprenticeship and upskilling programs that connect learners to in-demand jobs that match their skills and interests. The foundation is looking for new partners to challenge the status quo and transform the post-secondary education system. Learn more about their partnership opportunities and apply for a grant at ckf.org. You can also find them on Twitter at C. Koch Foundation and LinkedIn by searching Charles Koch Foundation. Jim, I like to offer a curveball question to my guest a little bit. I'd like to do that for you. Can be related to higher ed, maybe not related to higher ed. Are you ready?
Sure.
I like this is my game show music, so I gotta like get in the mood. Jim, what's your entrance music? What's the song that plays that defines you at a commencement, or you happen to grab a glass of wine and you're gonna head into the living room, and what would the song be that plays to introduce you?
Ashley may have to help me on that one. I am not into music at all, so I wouldn't know one song from the other.
Uh-oh. Maybe it's a sound. Is it a sound? Is it like an air horn or some? I think I saw a picture of you riding a horse somewhere, or is it a horse hooves hitting the ground or something?
Yeah, that would motivate me. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a cowboy at heart and a businessman at heart. So I have the best world. I've got cattle ranch, a couple of them, and then Wyotech, and so
there's got to be some cowboy song in there about being a cowboy. It feels like there's something in there, and what like a Western cowboy song that would just. I mean, I'm from the East Coast. I don't listen to country music, but it feels like there's a good country cowboy song in there for you, Jim.
Oh, I'm sure there is one, but I don't listen to music, so. So.
You mean they don't have speakers on the horses? You feel like you should be taking around your Amazon Echo with you as you, had it on the ranch. Pretty soon you're going to line little Alexas all over the place, all over the ranch. You can ask for, call the horses. Alexa, call the horses.
We got to get service out there from Verizon or something before we do that. So at the ranch, we did put some boosters up so I can get a cell phone call in now, but most of the ranch, you're out in the middle of nowhere and nothing worked. So it's kind of nice to get away from technology. You're forced
your staff would try to call you and you don't answer, and they would talk.
I can't answer.
Jim's on the ranch.
Yep.
You know what? Somebody's got to go out and get him.
It's funny because Ashley and I worked together in Florida and with another guy, gentleman, Doug Min. And Doug Min would get frustrated sometimes when I'd fly home to the ranch over the weekend from Florida. And because we communicate 24/7. And I wouldn't communicate with him over the weekend. And then I invited him out to the ranch, several years later. And he says, now I get it. Why? He says, there is no cell phone service, so there's no use taking your phone with you. I said, that's exactly right. It's kind of nice to get away from all that.
So that's a really good lead into when we talk about service and we talk about access. During COVID, one of the things that happened is if you watch higher ed, all these institutions, whether they were traditional or non-traditional, if they didn't have online, they went online. One of the hard areas the schools that had the hardest time navigating that whole online experience in COVID were schools like Wyotech and others that did art and, artists and, music and all these things, to where, how do you learn how to do this in an online environment? Can you talk about how you either mitigated risk for these careers, or did you move anything online? Talk about what you did and how you responded, because all of your programs are
hands-on.
Right?
Yes. Yeah, we chose not to go online. We could have, because we're all set up on Canvas, and so it would have been very easily to say, yeah, we can do this online, but we just didn't feel like it was beneficial to our students and the employers that hire our students. So we chose not to, and we thought we're going to go broke because of this thing, or it's going to work. And long story short, we worked through the governor, the state health department, and the county health department, got where we could open up and put some protocols in place, but we did everything on campus. Our student population over doubled and tripled since this COVID deal started, actually tripled since it started. And because there's a lot of people out there that did not buy into all the hype and that be scared of all this, and said, Wyoming is probably pretty safe place to send our son or daughter. And so again, since COVID started, I think our population is close to tripled. And we've never looked back. We have protocols in place. So if a student wants to get tested or wants to set out, or that's no problem. But training happens on campus, period. So
did you, that's probably what you would have had to do. I mean, I think you could have, like you said, you could have gone online, but you just wonder what outcomes would have looked like for some of those programs.
Exactly right. Yep.
Can
How
you
do
learn
you
how to do
become an
this
engineer?
or
Tune
do
one
that?
up, or hook your computer up to a car or diesel truck or whatever and diagnose. I mean, you could show them online, but we're a hands-on school. Yes, we have some theory and everything else. And we have all our curriculum is on Canvas, but we said, these students need to plug in their laptops to these engines and transmissions and troubleshoot. And so we're going to go back to the old fashioned way and teach them. And again, our numbers tripled. So
is there any careers that you offer where technology is going to make them obsolete, or is technology enhancing all of these programs?
no, technology is enhancing. I mean, and we have to teach a lot of technology because all these vehicles are getting so technical now that it's crazy. You almost have to have a computer degree just to troubleshoot them. So, and we are looking at different curriculum. So we may get into some different curriculum and do some online, but it won't be in the trades. It'll be something different. So.
Yeah, I mean that. So do you? So the idea is that you go out and you recruit students. Do they move to Laramie? Do they come into Laramie? You have housing, you have all those kind of things that are stand up, and talk about that process, because one of the phenomenons that is taking place, and we don't talk about it as much anymore as we did at the beginning of the pandemic, is students started looking for schools that had open space, that weren't in urban areas, where you could socially distance just by being there. Now I've driven through Laramie. I've not lived there, but there's space. And
Yes.
was that was that almost a part of the marketing strategy?
Yes. So I'll back up. Wyoming is the least populated state in the nation. So we have 550,000 people is all in the whole state. And I think it's the 11th largest state of the 50. So we have a lot of open space. Laramie is the third largest town in the whole state of Wyoming. And again, it sounds impressive, but we're still only 30,000 people. So the two largest towns are Cheyenne and Casper at about 55 or maybe 60,000. When there's a home football game in Laramie, because there's only one 4-year university in the whole state of Wyoming, and it's in Laramie. So when there's a home football game, Laramie becomes the largest town in the whole city because the Cheyenne and Casper people come to watch a game. And so for the afternoon or evening, we can take credit for being the largest town. But and with that stated, though, Wyoming is again a lot of open space. So Wyotech is a lot of open space, big shops and everything else. So it mitigates a lot of the concerns a lot of parents have going to a large metropolitan area or a larger school.
That's good, and it aligns with what I thought. And one of the things I want to ask you about what you do in the trade programs, and you've seen it happen. If you go back in history and education, not too distant history, when we talk about schools that were trade schools, there were many for-profit schools, which is a tax status. It is not an operating model. For-profits, one of the reasons they got larger over time was because they were serving a student from a lower economic background, a lot of students of color, a lot of people where they had not done well in community colleges or other educational areas. And then for-profits, what they did is they put in like a high level service model where they held your hand through the entire process. And that's why many students were successful in for-profits. So now you fast forward to 2011, Obama administration puts in some of the tightest restrictions and unfair, in my opinion, that the sector's ever seen. And many for-profits over the next 10 years or so went out of business. And community colleges stepped up to take on some of the programs that for-profits used to offer, like medical assisting, some of the medical programs. And some of them you can do well in a community college, and some of them are not made for a community college. They're much harder to do. What's the value of a career college, a vocational college, to our economy that we're going to feel? Like you're talking about the local economy in Laramie and other areas where you're recruiting students. If Wyotech didn't exist, where do these students go to get educated? And I don't think a lot of people think about that. There's small and mid-sized trade schools with hundreds and thousands of students. What would happen to these people? They just not go to school anywhere? So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I believe a lot of them would not go to school because I put myself, I'm a I'm one of those typical trade school type person. I knew I did not want to, as a choice, I did not want to go to a 4-year college because I was working. I left home when I was 14. And so I wanted something short, sweet, and get in and get out so I could continue working. So there's a lot of choice. And I also needed that structure. I knew I needed that structure. So for me to go online and just take classes, I love to learn, but sometimes I need that structure. Our type of student as a whole needs that type of structure where they say, no, Jim, you got to show up at 7:00 in the morning. We're going to go to 4:20. This isn't a come and go and so many junior colleges and regular colleges, you can kind of come and go at will and still sometimes pass. Well, with a trade school or a technical school, career college, you can't. You've got to show up every day. So there is a difference. I ran a lot of medical assisting, dental assisting schools and nursing and everything else after I left Wyotech. And so we were in the large metropolitan areas, great experience, but that was a whole different clientele than what Wyotech recruits. Wyotech, because of the short programs, a student does not qualify for enough financial aid by themselves, like a typical career college in a large metropolitan area. So our student clientele is more of a middle class parent support, where they support them financially and emotionally to send their son or daughter to Laramie. We have our own student housing here. And so we have students from all 50 states, but it takes the parents as a whole to support their son or daughter from a financial standpoint. So we are a little bit different than a lot of career colleges in the large metropolitan areas, but I ran those. And so my heart goes out to those students. My first turnaround company I did in California was a career college system out in California, and we had schools in California, Atlanta, Georgia, and Florida. And my vice president of marketing or admissions, she was born in Mexico, had 2 babies by the time she was like 17 or 18 years old, heard a radio ad across the border, came into across the border every day with 2 babies under her arm just to attend a career college to change her life. And she became a medical assistant. And then we hired her as an admissions representative in that campus in San Diego. And then by the time I got there, I promoted her to my vice president of admissions. But you talk about a story, and a heartfelt story, where if it wasn't for that career college, she'd still be probably across the border living in poverty. And so there's definitely a place for career colleges. And a lot of times when people go to the doctor and or get their car fixed or whatever, it's the career colleges that have trained those people that are working on your car or working on your body. So,
you're hitting the button for me, the button for me, Jim, because I, in my time in higher ed, especially as I transitioned away from my last institution and I applied some places and I was looking for a new position, how many systems just turned their nose down at me because I had 15 years of for-profit ed experience in career colleges. And say it to me like, yeah, you've got this experience and it's relevant, but we really want somebody in a nonprofit space. And I went, that person will not be as good as I am. I can guarantee it. You won't be, because you learn things in a career college in a for-profit business run environment that do not exist in a nonprofit. So I know I have a lot of listeners, so I'm not trying to alienate anyone that work in nonprofits. If you haven't worked in a for-profit before, you just don't know some things, and you don't know, and that's okay. And the people who come from for-profits to nonprofit don't know some things either. But the for-profits ran like business, and they run like businesses, and that's for a specific reason. Because they were heavily regulated. You had to work in a machine and so on. But to try to turn your nose down at anybody who works in a career college or in a trade school and say that they don't care about students the same way that anyone else does in a nonprofit is complete garbage, in my opinion. You can believe me or not believe me, that's up to you. But to take away somebody's experience who bled and died and cried to get a student through, it's unfair. It's unfair to have those opinions. Sorry, Jim, I get going on this kind of stuff.
Oh, I'm the same way. And so many people think that nonprofits are nonprofit. it's a tax status, that they don't pay taxes. They still have to be profitable. You have to bring in more revenue than you spend, period. I don't care if you're a University of Wyoming or whatever school. It's a tax status. And so when we actually bought Wyotech, they said they weren't going to sell it to me because I was going to do it under a for-profit. I said, I'm proud to be able to pay taxes. Who else is going to pay for your nonprofit status? Someone has to take care of the government and everything else. So again, do I like paying taxes? No, but for nonprofits and for them to turn their nose up or down at us for-profits is just like, are you kidding me? If it wasn't for us, you wouldn't be available and have an organization. So, it's a tax status, but yeah, nonprofit doesn't mean no profit. It means it's a tax status. You don't pay taxes. And here we are paying taxes. So
right.
already
and in that model, in that tax status model, a nonprofit can get a donation. So
yes.
You can be in the red, you could have more expense than you have revenue, and somebody can come in and donate $1 million, and all of a sudden you've won for the year. A for-profit doesn't do that.
Exactly.
The for-profit model, you have to run a very bootstrapped, efficient business and take care of the students in the same way, or because of the regulations, in a more robust way than in a nonprofit, because you have outcomes that you are regulated by your accreditors that don't always exist at the level they do in a nonprofit.
If you take a look at the budgets and expenses for a university or a junior college, whatever, it costs more to train a student overall than what we charge in tuition. Again, taxpayers are paying that. And so we're training students for less money than what it costs most junior colleges or four-year colleges to train a student. Again, and again, they don't think of it that way because they only look at what the student pays. But the actual cost to train someone, we're actually charging less than what it costs, and we're making a profit. So we're very efficient.
How dare you make a profit as a business? How dare you? And oh wait, the nonprofit has a surplus. It's called surplus. Yeah. It's the same thing. It goes into a bank, into investments, and those investments make you money so that you don't have to make as much money the next time. I mean, it's business. If you just put both of those tax status, nonprofit, for profit, and you just say it's a business and you run it, it seems like it's so easy. But for some reason, the for-profits and career schools took a reputation because of some bad actors. Let's be honest, there are some bad actors out there, but there are some very, very good actors, and they continue on to produce great results and never have been needed more than they are now as our economy recovers and students become more interested in working with their hands. One differentiator in our future that's going to be technology-driven and have lots of robots and all this kind of stuff and automation are people that just work with their hands, because there are jobs that no matter what the automation looks like in the future, that the robots, because they're coming, I promise you. You ever seen that Boston Dynamics stuff where those little robots start doing cartwheels and flips? Yes. They're coming. And the one thing that's going to separate us as humans, the ability to work with our hands and be able to be human, right? And talk to people and have relationships. I think that's important.
Absolutely. Yep.
Jim, we'd like to finish off. I hate to take anybody's time when I soapbox, but hopefully I said some of the things you were thinking anyway. Because I get offended when somebody's like, "Oh, you worked in for profits." So like, I made $30,000 a year when I started in admissions. 28,000, whatever it was, and I worked hard to change people's lives. Anyway.
Yes, totally.
Stop, Jim.
No, you and I are on the same page with that. So
I hope you have continued success at Wyotech. So I asked the same two questions to every guest to end the episode. Number one, what didn't we say about Wyotech that you would like to say? Anything I may have not have asked you, something that you plan to say, anything you have going on, any plans you have in the future, anything at all. You can plug your website, services, whatever you want, plug. And then secondarily to that, what do you see as the future of higher education?
Yeah, great two questions. The first one is, we're at wyotech.edu, wyotech.edu, and our goal is to have the best student outcomes and experience for the students and their parents coming into Laramie than any other school out there that teaches the trades. So, and we believe we're close to that, but I want our students to have an amazing experience while they leave home and come to Laramie, Wyoming. And one thing I didn't mention, only 6% of our student body comes from Wyoming. So 94% of our student body comes from the other 49 states. And so our typical student is a 19-year-old that's traveled 1,000 miles to come to Laramie to Wyotech. The future of education, I think the winners are going to be the people that do it the best and have the best student outcomes and experiences and placement for their grads. So,
yep, it's all about outcomes in the end, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Well, Jim, it's been an honor to host you today. I'm glad you came on. I'm sure you didn't know what to expect, right? You thought,
wasn't sure what to expect, but I enjoyed it. So thank you.
Did it go better than you thought?
Definitely.
Okay, well, that's good. We'll take that. Let me outro you in the proper way here, Jim. And I do this for every guest. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. Jim Mathis, my guest today. He's president of Wyotech. You heard it. He said a lot, and honored to have you, as I said, Jim. And hopefully we could stay in touch.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd. Too many learners are being left behind by the current one-size-fits-all model of education. We here at EdUp and our friends at the Charles Koch Foundation see a better path forward. The Charles Koch Foundation supports innovators in education who are building and scaling new pathways to allow all learners to discover their potential. By changing the way we think about education, we can unlock opportunities for millions more Americans. To learn more about the Charles Koch Foundation support of individualized education, visit ckf.org.